The Bug Bux Podcast!
Pest control companies, what do they need to do to start generating some referrals and developing that marketing plan within their business?
I think our stance is, we'll focus on your customer base. And how do you turn your existing customer base into a flywheel engine that drives reviews, testimonials, online endorsements that drive new customers, that will drive a whole another customer feedback loop for you, and really create lifelong, long retaining, high LTV, low CAC customers that grows your business over time. And it ends up being a super cost-effective way to do that. I just got off a call today with a customer who told us, like, in the last month, we took 16 detractors, customers who once upon a time gave you a 0 out of 10, and they are all promoters now. And the lifetime value of a promoter is 4x retention. I just turned 16 people who were likely going to cancel and turned them into lifetime promoters for at least 4 more years.
People that are referred to proof by a customer, the retention is higher. They stay with us longer than the person that referred them. I'm friends with a guy that owns a company, large company. We've all heard of it. I'm not going to mention the name. He does 20,000 new recurring accounts a year in referrals. Just referrals. So let's get into it. What are those hacks? What are the things that we can do?
I'll kind of break things down into the 5 problems.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Bug Bux Podcast. I'm your host, Allan Draper, here with another incredible episode I'm really excited about. Hey, before you get too far into it, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to go and join our Bug Bux group. We're over 5,200 PCOs strong in our Facebook group. Just go to Facebook, BUGBUX. You'll find us. It's free. It's incredible. You have to be an owner of a pest control company to be a member of that group. So don't forget about that. So I'm really excited about my guest today, Reagan Nickl. He serves as the Vice President of Customer Success at Ask Nicely, which is the leading customer experience platform for service businesses. With over a decade of experience helping pest control companies transform customer feedback into retention and growth, Reagan has built a reputation for helping turn client bases into raving fans. He specializes in operationalizing customer feedback to drive loyalty, reduce churn, and unlock expansion opportunities. So with that, Reagan, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Allan.
Of course. So right before I hit the record button, you were just going off. And I was like, dude, stop. We need this. Like, this is just gold for pest control companies. And it's something that I'm really deep into right now at Proof. And so we're going to talk about a whole bunch of different things, but I want to start you here. You mentioned, hey, the cost per customer acquisition through digital marketing is very expensive. And I get that. I own a digital marketing company, Lizard, right? And I own a pest control company. I know this firsthand. And you mentioned, hey, why don't we talk about these ways that we can drive leads for less? So let's kind of pick up, what was your line of thinking there, and what do you recommend that pest control companies do to get some of those leads for less?
Yeah, I mean, for what we're hearing from customers, and we work with lots of different service-based companies and customers, everything from dog poop pickup to pest control. We work with clients like Aptive Pest Control and Moxie Pest Control, and essentially the narrative or the theme is the same: is that acquiring new customers is hard, and a lot of pest control companies are heavy on the doors. They're knocking all summer long, and what we also see is that door knocking is great. It's a powerful sales force, but also those types of leads tend to be not as retentive. They don't stick around as long as perhaps demand capture leads. And so a lot of companies are going to figuring out, how do I grow? I gotta show my revenue increasing, but I'm sick and tired of spending more and more money for it. And AI is slurping up some of my Google rankings and other things like that. And digital marketing, it's a hairy world to navigate. Mm-hmm. And so I think our stance is, we'll focus on your customer base. And how do you turn your existing customer base into a flywheel engine that drives reviews, testimonials, online endorsements that drive new users or new customers that will drive a whole another customer feedback loop for you and really create lifelong, long retaining, high LTV, low CAC customers that grows your business over time. And it ends up being a super cost-effective way to do that.
You know, what's interesting is, a couple of points. One is that there's so much power in reviews. And I've said this before, because when a customer leaves you a 5-star review, there's a psychological phenomenon called cognitive dissonance, where basically the idea is we're just trying to live consistent with who we believe we are. And a customer that leaves you a 5-star review is just more likely to overlook a mishap, maybe a late technician or something, because they're like, no, I left these guys a 5-star review. And it's going to take a lot for them to go back and update the review or leave you a 1-star review, because they're like, no, man, I've already said publicly how much I like them. Now it happens, but that's one of the reasons why it's so important. Another thought that I had is that I've noticed at Proof that people that are referred to Proof by a customer, the retention is higher. They stay with us longer than the person that referred them, which is interesting, because and the person that referred them also stays with us like much longer than compared to somebody that doesn't refer somebody else. But I guess the point is that those referrals are so important. Actually, I'm friends with a guy that owns a company, large company. We've all heard of it. I'm not going to mention the name. He does 20,000 new recurring accounts a year in referrals. Just referrals.
That's nuts.
So let's get into it. What are those hacks? What are the things that we can do? And I always say that I would rather retain a current customer than acquire a new one, right? And the reason, there's a lot of reasons, but one of them is it's usually less expensive, but you've already been out there. They've had interaction with the technician. You already have somewhat of a relationship where somebody's just coming on board. You're starting fresh. So with that in mind, the lower expense, how are pest control companies, what do they need to do to start generating some referrals and developing that marketing plan within their business?
Yeah. So I'll kind of break things down into the 5 problems. And if you have a pen at home or anything like that, I would write down like, hey, problem number 1 that I got to go solve. If I'm going to focus on my existing customer base and turn them into raving fans, the first thing we need to start collecting, the first problem to solve, is customer feedback. Do you have a method to start collecting people's feedback? And it could be something as simple as a suggestion box link on your website. It could be something at the footnote of your invoice that says, tell us how we're doing. What some of the top premier companies are doing is that they will trigger a post-service survey that can come in the form of an SMS or an email that says, hey, we just came to your house. We just performed this service. Here's the photos. We'd love to know how we did, right? Sometimes that communication of the service and the value perception is as valuable as the efficacy of the treatment. But if you're not collecting that feedback, you're really in the dark. And now there's 2 different types of feedback too. You have solicited feedback, that's stuff you're asking for, like tell us how we did. And then you just straight up have what's online, what people are already saying about you. And if you don't have a way to bring that all in-house and look at it and say, I know what people think about our service or about our scheduling if you don't have a way to break that down, you really don't have a way to figure out what we're really good at, that I'm going to make sure people talk about. And I don't have a way to go fix what we're not great at. And so that's the first problem that everyone has to solve. And there's a myriad of tools out there that will collect feedback, super cheap, super inexpensive. But you have to figure out what's going to be part of my motion. How do we do this so that it's always on, it's always running, and we have a constant feed of feedback, either online, unsolicited, or solicited feedback coming through surveys and things like that. The second problem.
So that's number 1. Let's wrap that up. So number 1 problem is we've got to get feedback from our customers and apply that to our business, whether it's in marketing or making changes or whatever. So that's number 1. Number 2,
the problem creates itself. Once you start collecting feedback, you're going to realize that holy smokes, I have to respond to this stuff. You're going to start seeing comments and people saying, you left my gate open, you trampled my flowers, you did this, or you didn't do this. And most business owners are like, okay, I got to jump on that. I want to call them right now. I want to do something about it right now. And you'll quickly become overwhelmed because it feels like I can't always do that. The worst thing to do is to shut it off and be like, I can't possibly respond to everybody. So listen, we're better off not even asking the question. That's terrible because people have opinions about you, whether or not you asked for it. I'd rather know.
Exactly.
So now we know. Now the second problem you have to solve is, how do I respond to this? And you can manually do it. You can say, hey, once a day, I'm going to get on the phone and I'm going to call everybody who told me their feedback. Or I'm going to send an email or things like that. We recommend putting something that's automatic. I said earlier, always on, always running. If we can create a feedback loop that's automatic, and you're in digital marketing, you know so much of this is, how do I set up automatic things that are running while I'm sleeping? That's what we want. We want something that's responding to your feedback. Now, we Ask Nicely has a suite of tools that does this for you, where we can take the feedback, AI can analyze the feedback, and it's going to say, here, I can give you a daily report that's saying, here's what all the feedback, how it's broken into themes and categories, a curated digest, if you will. And here's the stuff that had to do with billing. And we can set it up and say, who should be the people or person that responds to billing comments? Right. Oh, that should go to finance, or that should go to Jake. He's in charge of that stuff. Or here's the regional manager, or here's the sales manager. That person we can automatically direct feedback to who should be actioning it. So once you have an always on feedback loop and you're always responding to it, I told this story the other day, a pest control company we were working with, technician came, sprayed, did an awesome job. On the way out, backed over a mailbox. Backed over a mailbox, drove away. Person goes on and leaves a feedback comment saying 0 out of 5 stars. What's wrong with you guys? You backed over my mailbox. The Ask Nicely feedback loop immediately notified the driver that you just received a 0 out of 5. That comment immediately pops up that you backed over my driveway. Driver turns around, they're less than a mile down the road. Driver comes back and says, oh my gosh, I had no idea. I'm so sorry. Gets on the phone with Corp or my manager. They made it right. They paid for the mailbox. By the end of the week, everything was cleaned up, new mailbox installed. Customer went back on and said, 5 out of 5. I couldn't believe how fast they changed. Like they reacted to this. I can't believe how fast they made it right. And I just reiterated to what you and I were talking about earlier, is that sometimes your most loyal customers are born from some of the worst experiences.
Absolutely.
Right?
Like, and that's the thing. And with reviews, like a lot of us will immediately go to the 1-star reviews with different things. And I want to see the problem solving mode of the company that is handling that. I don't want to hear yeah, but you did this and you did that, all the excuses, right? Even if it's a 1-star review and even if it sticks, I want a company that said, hey, I'm so sorry, we goofed that up. I need you to call me ASAP so we can take care of it. And it sounds that's exactly what this company did. And a lot of businesses, especially our pest control guys and gals, busy in trucks, they're training, they're doing 100 things. They want to make things right, but like you're saying, like, we don't know about it, right? We've got to figure out what we're doing wrong and get that feedback. So number 2 is, hey, we've got to know what to do with it, right? We've got to aggregate this data and know like how to respond and what to do with it. And so I don't know if there's anything else left there in number 2 before we move on, but I'm interested to know what number 3 is. The 2026 Pest Partners 365 program from Syngenta is the industry's only year-long rebate program that lets you save on the entire product portfolio. Take advantage of the enhanced early order bonus by December 9th to reward your purchases with an even bigger bonus than before, with no limit. Plus, you can automatically become a member by purchasing the Demand CS insecticide 10-gallon drum or the Demand CS Master Shipper. To learn more and to start stacking your savings, visit pestpartners365.com. referrals.com.
Yeah. So number one is collect. Now we've collected. Number two is we need to respond to that feedback. Number three is, and again, every one of once we solve a problem, it creates another one. So now we're responding to feedback. The third problem is like we said, I'd rather you tell me what's wrong versus you going and telling
Absolutely.
the internet what's wrong.
Absolutely.
Right? And so if I have an opportunity to make it right before that. Now, sometimes, and I would say for most organizations, you probably have a majority of your customers are super, super happy. And so the problem you have to solve now is, how do I go turn that super happy customer and get them to say what they just told me in the comment box or in the survey or whatever it might be? How do I get that online? And you could do a lot of different manual ways to do it. Ask Nicely, we have a suite that actually, while you're filling out the survey, AI will actually basically summarize what you said in the survey and said, does this look right to you per your feedback? Yep. And as soon as you say, yes, that's my feedback, it'll also redirect you to the localized listing. So that could be Google, it could be Yelp, it could be TripAdvisor, wherever you feel like you're listing your customers are finding you, it'll direct them there and they can simply paste their review. So you don't have to go ask them like, hey, I just saw you said something nice about me. Can you go say it again here? We can take what they actually said in a survey and say, we're going to take our 10 out of 10 experiences, and we're going to ask you to leave it online. We're going to take our 0 out of 10s, and I'm going to give us an opportunity to go make action and make it right. And once it's right, then we trigger the same message that says, would you mind telling people about that experience? And what you and I as consumers know, when you go and look at like reviews online, the ones that says bad experience, manager made it right, that's more trust building than anything.
Absolutely.
And I make purchasing decisions off that.
Yeah, you know that's not a fake review. That's not the business owner's mom. That's not a, review somebody paid for. That's like an authentic, and that's, I think most people hire businesses to solve problems. And it's just further social proof that this company can solve a problem. So you're saying with Ask Nicely, you have this filter system where it's like dependent on the score. You're not going to, which is perfect, right? You don't want the 0 out of 10s to write a review. You catch that, you solve the problem, and then I like that follow-up, because then you're still, asking them to leave a review, but you're doing it at the right time after you've already solved the problem that they had.
I think that's key, is like, give me an opportunity to make it right. And if I can't make it right, you still should deserve every opportunity to tell the world about it. To me, that's good consumer and business. Like, the best businesses should rise to the top. We shouldn't gate that type of feedback. But give me an opportunity to make it right, because we know that we're a human-led business. You're right. The technicians that arrive to your house, they have all different backgrounds and trainings and experience levels. And I'm trying, and really what you're trying to manage is the customer experience, where there's lots of variables. And so give me an opportunity to try to make it right. But you're going to get left with, so now you've collected the feedback, you've responded to a few of the detractors and people who need to be followed up on. You've sent some promoters online to go tell the world about it. But now you're left with a bunch of information. And usually what that information will say is, shoot, we need to train our sales managers, or we need to train our technicians to do something different. And in any other scenario, and I tell this story a lot too, is we had a customer, a pest control company, that was running a feedback loop. They were sending surveys, but they would wait until they saw a trend, right, in the data to say, hey, it looks like we have a trend of knocking over mailboxes. Like, usually that just doesn't happen. Or by the time you identified a trend, you've made around 200 or 300 customers really unhappy. And so rather than waiting for a trend or waiting for the insights to tell you that you're going to have to go kick off a big training program, what we recommend is taking the feedback and automatically distributing it to teams. So for instance, what this will look like for most pest control companies is your service manager, and it could be regionalized or localized. This service manager will get a readout that says, here's your top technicians, and here's everyone's specific scores. So when Jake goes and services houses, on average, he's getting 4.5 stars. When John does it, he get 2.5 stars. And it'll break it down and say what Jake is doing or what Becca's doing is different than John, and here's the difference.
That's cool.
As a service manager, I can use that in my one-on-ones. I do it in my daily huddles, or as like before we all go out for the day, I'm like, remember, today we're focused on greeting the customer by name. That's coming up a lot in our AI insights. And I have a full readout of what we need to do to focus today. In addition to that, I could turn on things like tipping, right? This change management is the hardest thing, right? Getting somebody to do something. I can look at the data and be like, we're not smiling enough when we get to the house. But getting somebody to remember to smile every time, that's hard. But if I all of a sudden assign a paycheck or a spiff or a tip or something like that, a reward to it, that behavior changes fast. And then they get instant validation. So when a technician leaves, they got it on the app that says, hey, great job. You got great scores for smiling. Here's a $5 tip. They gave you $10. And once you see that, I don't have to wait for trends. The very next customer experience, the very next house I go to will get a better experience because of that real-time feedback. Think like I'm sure you've ridden in an Uber recently, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so you get out of an Uber and it says, how did I do?
Exactly.
You give that feedback, instantly the driver can improve the ride for the next rider. Instead of waiting months and months to be like, do we have a trend here of bad driving? Like, no, I can improve it for the very next guest. And you'll notice that customer experience changes much, much faster.
I think this is really cool. The automatic feedback where you can motivate people to change and, do something about it fairly quickly. I think that's huge. I also think it's huge to help the leaders, help the people that are training your technicians so they know what is actually moving the needle, what is actually making a difference to the customer. And how do we know that? The customer's telling us. And the other part is the way that I would do it as a leader is I wouldn't focus on the 2.5 star guy. I wouldn't focus on John. I'd focus on Jake. And I'd say, hey, John, dude, what you're doing, you're so close, man. It's just, it looks like we've got to, make sure we knock on the door, make sure we have that face-to-face, that 2-minute, get to know you when we're doing initial services or whatever. That's what John's doing, man. And look at it, he's crushing it. And so you celebrate John and you use it in a way where it motivates others like, hey, John's doing it, or if Jake's doing it, I can do it, right? And I think that's great. It just gives the leaders just another tool that is actually moving the needle. What a great tool for meetings and stuff like that. Because on one hand, you're celebrating your high performers. That's going to be a natural result of this, while at the same time providing training and showing the people that aren't the highest performers what the difference is and how to close that gap.
For over 40 years, Pest Management Supply has been serving the pest control industry. Their second-generation family-owned business has been dedicated to supplying success. With a team of experienced and dedicated employees, including former pest control technicians and salesmen, they pride themselves on being problem solvers who deliver timely shipping and personalized one-on-one service. No bots, no apps, just genuine personal service. Trust them to be your reliable partner in success. Call today at 800-242-1211, visit www.pestmanagementsupply.com, or DM the word distributor, that's distributor, to the Bug Bux Podcast Facebook page. Now back to the Bug Bux Podcast.
Yeah, leaderboards, just knowing where I stack rank automatically makes me pretty bought in. And we have a pretty competitive workforce already. Moxie Pest Control used to use Ask Nicely scores to give out this like WWE heavyweight champion belt for customer experiences. And I remember Moxie requested back to Ask Nicely, they're like, today you guys read out the CSAT, which stands for customer satisfaction, the CSAT score of 2 decimal points. Like, we want to go 4 decimal points. And I was like, dude, that's crazy. Why? Like, no one else is asking for that. And they're like, no, that's how competitive we are. Like, anybody who has a tie, they want to know, well, back it up another decimal. Am I higher than you? And this belt was passed around with a ton of pride. And as soon as there's pride involved, you've actually changed the culture of your team. And because customer experience can't be faked, right? You can tell the companies that actually are customer centric and the ones that aren't. The ones that we are customer centric and we focus on your experiences, we think that's the key to our growth. Then you can tell that the culture is different.
Yeah,
because it's what we talk about. It's what we believe. It's what we value. It's what we reward. And if that's not happening, then you don't have a culture of customer centricity. You just don't. You might have an initiative, or you might have a project that we're trying to boost our scores. But until it's a habit, until it's ingrained in our culture, you won't see that long lasting effect. But you'll notice the flywheel will start turning. Those 5 problems that we just talked about, the more feedback we collect, the more we respond to, the more we enable our team to actually take the information and self-train and self-improve, will drive more online 10 out of 10 reviews, which will bring in new customers, new referrals, and the whole cycle will actually gain a ton of momentum. I just got off a call today with a customer who told us, like, in the last month, we took 16 detractors. That's customers who once upon a time gave you a 0 out of 10 or a detractor score. We took 16 prior detractors, and they are all promoters now. And the lifetime value of a promoter is 4 times X or 4X retention. And so if you spent, I don't know what a typical LTV to CAC for a lot of these companies listening to the podcast today is, but if you're spending $10,000 to bring in a customer, well, I just turned 16 people who were likely going to cancel and turn them into lifetime promoters for at least 4 more years. The cost, or at least the savings, or the new business, the LTV that I just gained, is massive. And that's where most people aren't looking, and they're trying, like, well, how do I bring in a new customer? To your point, it's so much cheaper, it's so much more effective to keep and retain your customer and then turn them into marketers, turn them into marketers for you.
Yeah, absolutely. This applies to employees also. Like, a lot of times we get frustrated with employees and we're like, I wish I had somebody better. When the better process is to just work with them, use this data, provide feedback, see if they're willing to change and learn and grow. And regardless of where they are, if they're willing to change and they want a better job, they want to be promoted within the company, then it's just so much less risky than going after and hiring somebody else. Even though it feels like the grass is greener, it's really not. Reagan, let's do a quick recap of those 5 things. And then I have a question about what are the specific steps to turn this process into referrals. So let's start there. Let's hit the top again. What's number 1, and walk me through the 5.
So it's an acronym that we use called CART G. So you've got to collect, you've got to assess the data, you've got to respond to the data, collect, assess, respond. You need to transform or change. You actually have to then change people's behavior. The data from the feedback will say, we need to smile more, we need to stop trampling flowers. Like, we need to change that. If you can change it with people, or like, meaning I've given the feedback to Jake and John, and not, it should not live at your head office. If the CEO is the only one who knows this feedback, it's in the wrong hands, right? It needs to be on the front line. And then finally, as you notice, people will change. You will deliver more real-time customer experiences, which will lead to more online reviews, testimonials, and people want this to live anywhere, but online reviews and testimonials, listings. And this is the final piece to that, is your online listings. We talked about solicited and unsolicited feedback. Where your reputation lives online, you probably don't even know about. What Ask Nicely does is we scrape the entire internet, and we'll tell you everywhere where your company shows up, and also specifically, and more importantly, where your competitors show up. So that you can see in Austin, Texas, we're 3rd on Google rankings, but Nashville, we're top. Why is that? And Ask Nicely will tell you exactly why and help you rank higher in Austin. And so that your reputation is consistent throughout the internet and not looking like some shady kind of company here and a stellar company over here. And once you have connected all 5 of those points, you'll notice that customer experience will start driving in new referrals and leads.
Awesome. What is, as we're wrapping up here, what is that gap? Once we've kind of completed this cycle, we've solved the problem, our people are changing, we have somebody that their net promoter score, it goes from 0 to 10. Is there a process that you recommend or that you've seen be successful with following up with these people that have changed their review in order to ask for referrals? Is there a certain amount of time? Whatever tips and tricks you have, any hacks you have, I want to hear them.
Yeah, people referring you is an emotional instinct. And so you want to be as close to that emotion as possible. So as soon as that has happened, you shouldn't feel embarrassed, and don't that, which is often what people feel is like, I'm like, I don't want it to feel disingenuous for me to ask you in this moment. That's why with Ask Nicely, we recommended always be on, that you're not even thinking about the software will actually impersonate you, and the notification will come from a manager or somebody that the customer recognizes, and it says, I know that you left us a 10, and I'm wondering if I could offer you a gift card to tell your neighbor about that experience. And if they come, like, we can build in incentive structures, you can build in lots of different ways. And what more often than not is that when people hear Allan come to me and say, hey, Reagan, how did you like the podcast today? It was great. Would you mind leaving? When it's personalized like this, I'm more than happy to do something for Allan because we have a relationship. And when you have a relationship with your customer, you really can ask them to do a lot of things, but you want it to be at this close to the moment of emotion as possible.
That's incredible. It's really nice to just have the system in place and just put that thing on autopilot, right? So that, I'm thinking about this entire process from the PCOs perspective, and it's like so much of it is done automatically. And what are the things that I need to do manually? I need to be in touch with my people and occasionally in touch with the customers on a one-on-one basis for those larger problems. But I'm in touch with my people, the people working for my company, so that we can actually change. And I'm like, sitting here, of all the things that a leader could be doing, especially a service manager or branch manager, helping train and improve your people based off of specific feedback and gaps in their service. Man, I don't know what's more important than that. And I think a lot of the importance isn't just because of how it's the end user receives it. It's not just about the customer. It's about you developing people. I talk a lot about how to retain top level people. And one of the best ways to do it is just help them improve. People want to work for a company where they feel like they're kind of behind the mission. They're behind what they're doing, but they also want to be challenged and they want to improve. We think a lot of times, they just want to hear they're doing a great job. You're doing a great job. You're doing a great. Top level people, they don't buy that. They're like, I know I'm doing a great job. How do I do a better job? How do I get it to the next level? And having this infrastructure in place, it's just a great way to automatically do that and train your people in spite of all the stuff you have going on throughout the day.
Allan, I'm so glad you said it, because for so long, software like Ask Nicely has been misunderstood, or they miscategorize us, like, well, you're like Qualtrics or you're like SurveyMonkey. SurveyMonkey stops at the survey. Qualtrics stops at the insight. And our big differentiator was just what you said, was we're going to focus on the employee, because the employee is the key to your business, right? You will, by the way of your employees, will your business growth go. And if you're investing in your employees and you're investing in their development and things like that, and more often than not, those technicians that are on the doors every single day, they're the ones that you want to get the most out of them. And so why would we not invest in our biggest asset in order to grow our business? And so for a long time, people were like, your NPS or your feedback. Yeah, but no, we're frontline. Like, we're all about the frontline. You'll see in our software, a majority of the tools that we build and we innovate is for the frontline employee and not for their manager.
I love it, man. Hey, how can people learn more about Ask Nicely, and where do you want to send them?
Yeah, check us out on asknicely.com. You can also reach out directly to me. My email, reagan@asknice.ly. Happy to answer any questions. One of my favorite things is showing off our solution and talking to service-based companies, pest control especially. But visit our website. There's lots of information, tools, and resources. The five problems, you could probably solve those lots of different ways. And we'll be the first one to recommend different ways and different cost-effective ways to do it. We also pride ourselves on the fact that our software can automate all 5 of those problems. But we can be a resource to anybody as well if they're just getting started, and on any budget. We're happy to discuss how you could really bootstrap it and make it work for you.
Awesome. So, and Reagan is Reagan. Guys, make sure to reach out to him. Obviously has a ton of information about how to retain the current customers and then turn them into just referring machines. What an asset that would be to your company. And it just creates a cycle effect, because as we retain our employees, especially our technicians, it's so much easier for us to retain our customers and for them to just be our voice out there in a time when digital marketing is getting messy and you really need to start developing your brand. There's no better way. So, hey, Reagan, thanks so much for joining me, man. I'm looking forward to watching Ask Nicely in the future and just seeing all that progress. So wish you guys nothing but success.
Likewise, Allan. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you so much for listening to the Bug Bux Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please show your support by subscribing and leaving us an honest 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you, and we'll catch you on the next episode.